Good morning, traders. Welcome back. And of course, tech earnings coming in, the big boys coming in, lifting up this market. Now, the question is, are we on breakout mode? Things to be asked about. As yesterday, of course, we went from being down to really kind of kicking it out the waters now. We're up there towards 640s on the SPY. Excited to be looking at the market right now because, hey, at least once again, we're on this move in the way that we should be, right? We talked about it. We could have some tough sledding the first couple of days of the week, and then of course yesterday we did open up towards 636, went down towards 631, then back up towards 639.30. So that's just how the market does it. It goes back and forth there, now towards 640s, and really starting to push. A lot of the tech names kind of getting this started. Now the Qs looking like they're in straight breakout mode. Look at the weekly. Look at the strength that's in the Qs. The Qs don't look like they're going to stop anytime soon. And we got to be watching to see what happens with Bitcoin and things like that. But they had been breaking out, right? They're looking like they're continuing to break out right now. We had a little pullback in ETH, and it's looking like it's reloaded and ready to go. So we got to be on breakout alert out there and be trying to ride the waves, right? We'll see what happens. Of course, one of my best calls this year, AMD, continuing to just rip higher, and other names, right? Microsoft reporting. We'll talk a little bit more about that report. It's up there to 559. Meta also doing good. Lots of stocks coming in. So if you guys got a stock on the reports that you guys want to talk about, smash it up. We'll take a look at that. And of course, get to the action. Of course, Kevin, it's good to see you in the chat. Vicky Vic, what's going on? And Jay Angelo, how we doing in the house? Let's get to the action. Let's make some money today. We'll be looking to see if some of the kind of momentum names start to bounce back. APLD yesterday finally rips back above 11. Now it's already there towards almost 13, guys. You guys know I've been all about this name, but this name did a kind of after hours move. This is where it kind of sucks because it's very hard to have been long into that move as this went down below. So now I got to kind of chase or look for pullbacks on this. We'll look to see if APLD does pull back. This is one of the names that I have swung before through the 11, but already towards the 1250. We'll be taking a look at some other ones, of course. Let's get to the playbook. Let's get to what trades you guys can be watching in the market today. And there's tons, right? I'm going to just go through some quick ones right here, but we'll go through some more before the open. Hit the like, and if you got a setup you want to talk about, now's your chance. Throw it up in the chat. All right, on the playbook today, what could we be watching, right? There's tons of trades to kind of look into. It's just more, where do you want to be kind of taking a look at? Well, SQM is one that I'll be watching, of course. I'm looking for some lithium names that kind of come on the bounce. They have pulled back the last couple of days, and now looking to see if they just get the bounce, right? LAC right back down to 259, could bounce right back. LAB is another one that I'll be looking at. Of course, I'm looking at higher quality names, but look at how MP is even pulling back, or UUUU. Of course, I talked about how this name could come from 10 to 9, and we took that trade. We're able to make some money yesterday. Kai could have just reopened it and rolled this back down to $9. UUUU already back there towards 9, could be coming back towards 8, even a little bit further. We'll see if it starts to come back up. Definitely don't want to fight the trend on this one, but definitely a quick breakdown could give you some good cash. All right, we'll be taking a look at other names out there. Let's keep moving. Let's go towards the next name that we'll be watching, and that's TQQQ. Of course, after yesterday's breakout towards the close and the after hours. So now we'll see what happens. Of course, they flushed it right before the earnings yesterday. So look for maybe a red to green move. I'm looking for a cut down back below this 93, trying to get to the 92s and then turning around, right? Somewhere between 92, 80s and 92. I'm looking for this to pull back into and then take another level higher. We'll see what happens there in the TQQQ and some tech names today. Of course, one of the stocks that I've been liking is Block, and it has been going sideways and starting to pull back after a huge gap up. So now I'm looking to see if some buyers step right back in and drive it higher. It's had 3 days pullback. A lot of this also didn't help yesterday that PayPal really got hit. Let's see if PayPal stops the bleeding today, doesn't cut that low, and you start to see a move back in XYZ. Of course, block. We'll see what happens on these names. And there's been a lot of blockchain talk, right? So that's another reason why I'll be keeping my eye on these names. All right, guys, we'll get to the sunrise report. We'll kick things off. We'll take a look at what's going on in the market. We also got some economic data that came in there. Let me see if I can pull that up for you in 2 seconds here and kind of describe what happened there. So like always, I use Benzinga Pro for certain things like this. If you guys haven't used Benzinga Pro in the past, definitely take a look into it. It can help you out, even just today, guys. It gives you great news, great calendars, and things like that to work off of. Of course, the Fed preferred inflation measure coming in here with the PCE. Let's take a look at what happened here and what were the numbers, right? So the month over month outlook coming in here at a 0.3 versus the 0.3 estimate. So all in line there. Nothing to be talked about there. We did get initial jobless claims, and they actually dropped underneath the estimate. So that's a good sign for that scary ADP number that we saw earlier in the week. And if you look over the year over year core for PCE, it was at 2.8 versus a 2.7 estimate. So a slight uptick, but nothing that's crazy. This is just leaving the way for things to continue to work the way they're doing. I think continuing to push to the upside and something to look at. Microsoft and Meta stock add 440 billion in one day. Yeah, that's crazy, man. We'll see what happens. Nearly matching Netflix's entire $503 billion market cap. Yeah, that's a crazy headline. Just goes to show you how good Microsoft and Meta beat there. Up there to 560, guys. What a move there by Microsoft. Pure bliss this market is, guys. And right now, you got to go with the trends, right? If you're not, you're missing out, guys. All right, let's go to a quick sunrise report here, and then we'll get towards the trading action. Let's keep it flowing. Of course, this was all led on the morning by the Magnificent Seven members, Microsoft and Meta. The earning highlights here: Microsoft surged 7% pre-market after fiscal Q4 earnings of $3.65 per share. They topped the expectations. Where things really came, it was with Azure, right? Their cloud kind of system there. Revenues rose 18% to $76.44 billion. So really good outlook in the revenue also. The Azure cloud exceeded also expectations at 75 billion in analyzed revenue. So it just goes to show you guys that at the end of the day, Microsoft is still finding ways to really kind of make money, and it ain't looking like they're stopping anytime soon. All-time highs and really kind of just taking off. If you think about it, these charts have really pushed. I mean, when you think about, of course, everyone talks about 2020 and how that was kind of more of your bubble. That was like a 100% move. But when you think about it, from the low now of this 25, right, when this 340s up to the 550s, we're at 63%. So how much further can we keep going? Well, all things to be thought about, but definitely you can see the pace of the ramp up there. If you ain't thinking we're in a bubble now, when will you think, right? I think there definitely is a bubble, but that just means ride the bubble. The wave is here. I ain't going to cry about it. I'm going to make some money on it. That's for sure. Meta spiking 9% off of this morning and doing a very similar move, right? I remember at one point in 2022, everyone was trashing Meta. All of you guys can see it. It's held that 9 EMA really well on the monthly, continued going higher. And this daily break, it's not a bad one at all. Pulled back there from 700 now to 775. And these are going to be hard to trade, right? Now, I don't think I'm going to be looking for these on upside, but definitely stocks to look for in the next couple of weeks to see if they get some buyers to step up again. Meta spiked 9% after issuing an upbeat Q3 guidance, 47.5 billion to 50.5 billion versus a 46.16 billion estimate. So yeah, when you bring the low end of your revenue guidance higher than the estimate, that's going to definitely help you. Q2 revenue also beat the expectation, underscoring the strengths in digital ads. Yes. And of course, with AI, digital ads are going to get a little bit even better, I think. So just keep watching to see how Meta continues to perform. Of course, tonight we'll get Amazon and Apple. Big boys going to be coming in. We'll see what happens with Apple. Definitely faded off yesterday. I feel like the China conversation was affecting this, but will it just get good earnings and all of a sudden right back up higher, maybe 220s, and finally breaks this long-term trend line? We'll see what happens there with Apple. All right, guys, a mixed bag elsewhere. There was a Qualcomm that had slipped 5% despite Q3 beats. Concern remaining around forward guidance. There was ARM that dropped 8%. This one was on Q1 revenues that nearly missed the expectation. Ford fell 4% in extended trading. The company flagged a $2 billion net tariff-related headwind for 2025, driven by a $3 billion EBITDA hit, particularly offset by $1 billion in recovery measures. So yeah, they're preparing and batting down the hatches at Ford. And this is why I tell you guys, it was all about the used cars, guys. I talked about it early on in way before 25 started, how used cars could be the move for 2025. And look at Carvana now, absolutely killing it. And guess what? New high there for Carvana with this report and pushing higher. Doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. So, hey, the used car trade doesn't look like it's stopping, especially with the way that the prices are in vehicles. Roku rose after its Q2 beat, EPS of 42 cents versus a 31-cent estimate, revenues of $989 million. Don't forget, of course, good also in digital ads. We'll see how this continues to perform. You got Sprouts Farmers Market that just didn't do much there. The grocer did beat across the board, raised fiscal guidance. So not looking too bad there. We'll see if this can get back up there towards 170 and continue to push. Mondelez, MDLZ. This is down here, dipped 3% despite beating the Q2 expectations. It reiterated a cautious full-year EPS guidance. And don't forget, right? A lot of things for them have gotten more expensive, especially that cocoa. All right, guys, Federal Reserve fallout markets are still digesting the Fed's decision to hold rates steady at 4.25 to 4.5 in July. Federal Chair Jerome Powell emphasized that no decision has been made for September. Two officials, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, dissent, wanting a hike. Yes, they are trying to get Powell's job. So now is going to be all about seeing which Fed is actually focused on things that matter, or are they just focused on getting hired? It looks like Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller are purely in the case of, yeah, hire me, Trump, hire me. All right, inflation watch. Traders will now turn to Thursday's release on that PCE. You guys saw it. The year-over-year outlook was the one that slightly went up. Month-over-month, slightly down. So pretty much in line. Trump versus Powell, more conversation about that. But I'm at this point where I don't even pay attention to these comments anymore. Who cares, Trump? You don't even have a word in the dictionary anymore to call Powell. So we'll just leave it at that, guys. Hey. That's just a whole nother other view. Of course, this was tied to the cost overruns in the building renovations. So we'll leave that where it is. But it's time to stay sharp, guys. Sound that alarm. Start that countdown. It's time to go trading. Wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
What's going on, traders? Let's get it started. Let's bring on Michael. What's up, man? How we doing? Looks like the party stays alive and the bull market keeps going. Whatever happened to overbought or, well, You see those little Twitter mentions, right?
I
They're
know.
right back down, guys. Now, I will say that I think we did look at it good with momentum stocks, though, because some momentum names are still breaking, right? So I think this is more of that rotation that some people missed, right? At some point, the rotation was going to move back to the higher quality names. And with the big tech reporting, I think that's what we got, right? Some momentum names got profit taking, and some of that money might have gone to these big boys, and they're pushing strong, man.
Well, and it's also about, right? We talk about all the time. The market moves based off positioning and only
Mm-hmm.
positioning, and they got trapped, right? So if you look at this from a just 15-minute chart or something, we had this
Yeah.
huge drop after JPOW that got everyone super concerned, and then kind of the market closed and good news came out and up from there. So I think that we won't know until later. But I think if we go and look back at on the weekend to this commitment to trader reports,
Yeah.
they may have gotten more short. Again, I've been screaming about this the whole way up. They're short, right? The contrary, if you want to be a contrarian, you're buying stocks right now. If you want to kind of go with the herd, well, the herd is shorting stocks right now. So I will be interesting to see, because if that ticked up, meaning that people leaned into the short after JPOW, then I don't know what's going to happen here. We could have at some point a pretty epic blow up when it comes to looking at what's going on with this positioning, because they've got to cover. They've got to cover at some point. And it's not just the futures positioning. There's been all these studies done on, your average short float position, and your average short float position has been increasing. So just showing that across the board on all stocks, they're shorting. So they're shorting individual names, they're shorting futures, they're shorting Bitcoin, they're shorting everything they can. And most of those things are at or near all-time highs. So I don't think it's going to end up well for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see them. There has to be some way they're making money, man. They're not just losing money here.
They can.
I don't think, at least for this long. But that's just the way that I feel. I think they're making money some on momentum names, and then starting to shift up, but hedging for a longer term move. I don't know what they see down the line, but normally at least Q4 is a good strong quarter. We'll see. I think we're definitely getting towards points where we are getting extended, right? But this is what we were looking for. We were looking for that last kind of hurrah above the all-time highs. I think we're getting it here. Now the only question is, where does it go to, right? You got some analysts that had put out like 6,700, right? There's some that are all the way up to 700, right, on the SPY, pretty much 7,000, right? But on the kind of the futures outlook. So, where do you think this could get to, really? I mean, if it gets really crazy here, 700 is not out of the realms, right? We're just talking about what, 9% higher, 8.9% higher. Do you think we could hit 700 today or not today, but do you think we could hit it this year?
Yeah, bull markets generally go further than people think, right?
That's
I
part
think
of it, right?
it all has to do with earnings, right? So now that a lot of the big guys have reported earnings, the way you guys have to look at this is that the market is actually cheaper than it was yesterday, right? That's you got to make sure you're doing that math in your head, is that it's not so much where is the market, but if earnings are growing amazingly and capex is growing amazingly, then the market should go with it, right? I've showed that chart before. I can dig it up again, that stocks go up and market go up when they make more money. And then right now we're seeing them make more money. So I'll be interested to see, once earnings seasons is done, what people will do is they'll put a multiple on the entire market. They'll just say, hey, is this market cheap or expensive based off the earnings growth that we have right now? But you know me, I'm a technician. None of that really matters. As long as the trend continues, it can go way further than people think. And because people are shorting into it, right? So we know that the net position here is short, which means obviously some people are long and making money, but on average, on net, people are short. And as long as they remain short, I just want to be buying stocks hand over fist, because we know that they're quite often and most of the time completely wrong.
Are we getting towards when will this look like a more of a bubble environment as we keep looking at forward outlooks? This is for the S&P 500 PE ratios now towards 30.37. Definitely getting towards more of that .com boom area.
And the
Uh,
.com, and that way higher. .com was what?
right
Yeah,
here.
46, so 50% higher.
Yeah. I mean 30. We're at 30s. It's a
Yeah, it's
46.
that's a 46. That's 50% higher from here. I'd take a 50% higher move,
Yeah,
right?
you think it could get up there? You
Yeah,
think the multiples can get to 40s?
why not? Right?
All right. I mean, that'll be the look, right? I think it's important. Maybe at least it's 39 in reach, right? And that's when I think you'll start to really get more of that flippening, right? I mean, you're definitely pushing on it right now, and it had gone down to 20, so now we're up towards 30s. The multiples really kind of pushing. I mean, definitely you can see it. People look at this one, especially. I know a lot of people that are kind of, especially the economists, are really focusing on that forward outlook to where it could get to.
Well, and I think that's a bring that chart just back up for a second, right? Everyone who looks at I can't what triggers me more than anything is people who bring up a giant, first of all, non-large log chart of the S&P 500, and they go, "Oh, look at this bubble, we've been going up forever." But that
Yeah.
chart shows that we've really gone nowhere from a price earnings
Mhm.
point of view forever. Companies make more money, stocks reflect that companies make more money. There is no every time we get a little bit too high, we come down, every time we get a little bit too low, we come up. Now, the argument for this line over time drifting higher is that companies are more efficient, right? You can't really compare to the 1950s where,
Yeah,
you know,
it's like pointing towards like 1890s, right? It's
yeah,
like, yeah,
it's
like,
like
you know what I mean?
of course our baseline is going to be higher than that because companies are
Yeah,
way more efficient. But
I
this
think you're
shows
looking more like at a 20-year outlook or
right.
a
So this
50-year
shows from
outlook.
2006 to now, the market has gotten no more expensive. It's roughly the same price, right? From 2020 to now, it's cheaper. Or 2000, the year 2000 till now, it's cheaper than it was then. So this is another thing that all the doomers always point about. Oh, the market just goes up all the time. Yeah, because the companies are making more money, right? The price earnings chart is fine. So, you know, short term, market does whatever it wants. Long term, if economies and companies are making more money, then the chart's going to go up over time. And if you're a capitalist, that's exactly what you should hope happens, right? You want things to go up over time.
All right, guys. Cliff says it's all about the fig today. Is that starting
That's the
today?
fig.
Is it starting? I know
I
about it,
read
but
about that. Yeah,
it's
I think it.
Figma. Figma
Yeah,
is it's but it is it trading today?
I
Let's
thought.
see.
Let me take a look. It's not live yet, but I read on Twitter somewhere that someone was saying that yeah, it should be going at some point today.
Let me see. Let me see what's out there. What's out in the street right now? Listing day. Yeah. Yeah, it's some people have it listed as today would be the day. So just watch for it, right? A lot of times these come out in the afternoon, right? They start
Mhm.
trading in the afternoon. Another thing to look at is at what price. So 14 hours ago, it was stated that Figma was pricing its IPO at $33 per share, right? So look when it actually opens, what is that price, right?
Mhm.
Because if it's said at 33, doesn't mean it's going to open at 33, right? It could open up at 40, 43, right? 53. So just
Oh
pay
well,
attention to that.
and in
And
this market, you can almost be guaranteed that it's likely going to open up much higher
higher
than
than, yeah, it'll
price.
get a premium, right, to
Yeah.
that price. Why? Well, because the banks like to make money, guys.
Well, yeah, and for those who don't know, right, there was a
Yeah,
couple hedge funds that I worked with, and their sole thing was they knew people. So they got into these IPOs, they picked
yeah,
which IPO they wanted to get a part of, and then as soon as the lockup period was done, they dumped it quite
they
often
dumped
that
it.
day, and
Yeah,
then that was it. So, you get Facebook's IPO for 20% off what it ends up opening up at. So you just sell it that day and you made 20%. You've had
yeah. The
essentially
stock
no risk, right?
stock goes up even like 5%, you're screaming in the streets, man.
Yeah,
So
well, because
yeah,
you're getting these things at such a discount, and it makes sense too, because you are taking a unhedgeable risk, right? If all of a sudden you buy the IPO of Facebook and you wait a month for, you have to hold those shares until it IPOs, and then in that time Zuckerberg gets hit by a bus or something. Well, you're going to lose like half your value. So it becomes a big, it's a risk, and it's an unhedgeable risk, but it's one of those that over time it makes a ton of money, because in most cases the stock will open above whatever its IPO price is. And then of course they've got all kinds of analysts that are making sure they're only in the IPOs that are the hottest names and the things that people care about, all that kind of stuff.
Figma, one of those names, guys. We'll definitely say that. Figma will definitely be one of these names that are watched. All right, guys. So many earnings reports. Man, I don't even know where to start. It's one of those days where it's like I can go to the big boys, I can go to smaller boys. Some of the smaller ones are moving bigger, right? Because they just have a little bit more of that beta. Definitely Applied Materials. We already talked about that, how that's 25% higher. Even this stock, dude. SNDL. You remember this thing?
Heard it. That's a weed name from like a million years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even know if they do weed anymore. Yeah, they're still in cannabis, but now they do liquor also.
Sure, why not?
They just said, you know what, let's get in the liquor game. They got Wine and Beyond, Ace Liquor, Liquor Depot, Value Buds, Spirit Leaf, all underneath this. So a retailing of wine, beers, and spirits, and a little bit of some cannabis, and just a pure out vice company. we make vices.
If you get the right ones, right?
Yeah, man. So hey, SNDL really ripping this morning. I don't trust this one bit, but look at it, guys. There's some push there. All right, guys. So where do you want to go, guys? I'm looking at the chat. What do you guys want to talk about? Of course, Carvana going higher. RSI was an interesting move. That's like a gambling move that it will get me to watch that DKNG. Remember, we talked about this little pattern right here. Well, there it is. The squat before it goes. The squat, guys. We talk about these little liquidity searches. Break it and send it. Now you got your bullish engulfing candle. Now you really are getting going here on DKNG. So you could look for other gambling names to push, right? And there's plenty of other names you could look at. But I'm not going to go through some of the more speculative names. RSI would be kind of the closest one. Good earnings that has pushed.
Coinbase is interesting to me reporting tonight, just because of everything did so well except Robinhood. I told you guys, as soon as they put that guy's mug on the cover of Forbes, right? That's the end. But
what we should have been doing is selling those options like we talked about, because I'm sure that expected move was big in Hood. And where did the stock move?
Nothing.
Couple pennies.
Yeah. So no, it was it's probably gonna open. Yeah, it's down 80 cents for
dude. Can you
half
imagine
a percent?
those people that bought those calls, right?
Well, and right, remember we talked about that a couple times, I think,
yesterday.
That's why you don't buy, because even if you bought puts, right, and you look at it and you say, well, it's down like 0.5%, my put should be good. It's like, no, your puts got creamed. You are, even though you were right on direction,
it's on earnings.
Yeah, you got. So this is why there's tons of people out there, and they'll do butterflies or strangles or straddles or some sort of volatility where you're not betting direction, you're just betting that volatility will contract. And it's one of those things where 80+% of the time they'll be right. Every now and then, a company will, like the Microsoft guys, they're having a bad day. That if you sold options on that. However, if you're managing your risk correctly, it's no different from any other strategy, except you're right very often and wrong infrequently. You're just wrong a lot, right? It's going to hurt. But if you keep your position size so that none of these can blow you out, it ends up being a nice little return stream that a lot of people do.
Yeah, I just think the key is you got to have lots of money.
Yes. Because you've got to take tons of bets. You've got to be betting on like you've got to be betting on everyone that comes out. You have to kind of bet on, because you need that money to spread it out through all these different instruments,
Yeah, that's the hard
because
part.
you've got to get those returns, right?
It's expensive too, man. The dogs are barking out there. I hear them. I hear them. I hear them.
Well,
We'll
it's
see.
for once the sickness that I'm battling here, the kids got second, so the wife's going to pick them up now. So you'll hear barking and screaming today. So get ready, guys.
Let's go. Let's go. It's been that type of week, Michael. We'll hang in there, right? It's just that type of week, man.
You
Well,
just
let's keep it
survive.
going. Yeah, that's it, man. We'll get through the week, guys. All right, SPY now trickling down, of course. Needs to put a little bit of a test on those bulls. But I don't know, man. I feel like today is one of those days that there's really not much negative in the afternoon that can come in here. Really good morning to start it off. Of course, these stocks gapped an insane amount. I don't think Microsoft is necessarily the easiest bet here. But hey, I think we still have room here for a little bit more of a run. TSM is one that I'll be watching today. I think it's already lifting. But this is just like a nice little setup to me. Right. You know what I mean? You got tech starting to run.
Mhm.
This is just right there, holding really well. I mean, it's just like stair stepping. Every time it comes to the 9, it gets bought. Why not go for a 250 move, right? It's 246, 250 right there. Just seems to me like it has 250 written all over it.
Yeah, and that, right, all of semis
Yeah,
are doing well. So it seems like
overall.
every semiconductor company you want to take a look at, except
Yeah,
right
it's not all of
for
them.
Intel, except
Yeah,
for Intel.
yeah. The value names you don't want. You want the growth names, and that's where it's really been.
Well, yeah, even Nvidia here, right, breaking up to new highs. Right, so this is part of the Microsoft news. If they're going to be spending more and building AI and doing all that crazy stuff, you're going to get that push there from that guy as well.
Yeah, like Micron's not the sexiest charts. It's some of the top boys. It's not really the bottom boys. Um like let's say like an NXPI. It's not really taking off. That's $57 billion company. Um, you got ADI, Analog Devices, not really taking off. It's a few names. Like Qualcomm is a perfect example. It's $180 billion stock, not really taking off here. So
Yeah.
it's some of the top ones, and you got to stick with the ones that are actually moving. TSM, Nvidia, AVGO, AMD. Those top 4, dude. That's a ETF within itself.
hmm
Those
I
4.
really the chart that I'm the kind of the most interesting here is MU, because I love charts that break a very clean resistance area,
Mhm.
come back in and test that and dig in like this, and then start to grind higher. So this one looks very interesting to me, where it's digging in here quite a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it doesn't look bad at all. I think you can look for these to be the kind of the laggards. They start to play catch up. You just want to start seeing them get above short-term moving averages. A lot of those are like kind of fighting their moving averages. So look for like a clean break and some good volume on these names. But they're not bad names to watch. I just definitely am seeing more of that concentration in some of the higher names. Now, Google, of course, just recently reported looks good here. Looks like it could take the highs. Will we get all-time highs here for Google? I think we're well on our way. At least from what I can see here on the charts, it just looks like it just wants it, and we're not far from it. That's what 207,
hmm
207.05. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and this is the been the laggard of the space for a long time. I think when this pops all-time highs, it's going to be really interesting, because there's been a lot of people who've been betting against this one
Yeah,
as let's buy the bet against these at all. So
it's gonna get
I don't
destroyed.
I all shorts, right? I would be very scared to be a short of pretty much anything in this market. I think opens a good sign of that. That's actually doing a little bit of a move today. So I've had this one on watch here for a while, just because you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on these names. And it
This is
had
a
that
good.
crazy pop, nice little pullback. Looks like it might be coiling back up here. So I want to keep this one on watch because it's still probably pretty shorted.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's so much of a short squeeze on this one. Just look at Zillow. Is Zillow getting short squeezed, or is it a real move? Right. So I think that you have to think about what Zillow's doing here, because I think that it's moving also with it. And if Zillow's going to continue making a move, I think Open follows it. I don't think it's only high short interest on that one. It's an actual good company. If you guys actually dig deep and understand what it does, it's a cheaper version of Zillow, essentially. And with that being said, it's the alternative. So I think it'll go as Zillow goes. If Zillow is still the leader in this space, like, if you're looking up housing, you don't immediately go, I need to go to Open Door. But Open Door does really good on what Zillow struggles on, which I think is part of their ZG business, which is Zillow Group, which is more selling of the houses right through them. And that's the difference, the slight difference in the business. So of course, Z kind of split to ZG, which is Zillow Group. So they split that type of their business. But you look at both of these, they're both rising. Open could follow it. So with that short squeeze of squeezing out the shorts on that first push, now I don't think there's too many shorts still stuck in this. And I think they're going to start getting run over on the upside if Open could start to lift here. So I think you'll get longs to start jumping in here, based off of the Zillow Group.
Well, and that's what you need for a great short squeeze. And I'm interested to see when this data comes back out, because we can always go take a look and see what we're looking at here. But yeah, it was short up to, get out of your Popeyes commercial. It was short up to $26 or 26% at these lows, and it went to 21% right after the first pop. So I'll be interesting. Does this tick back up? Right? Do they short? A lot of, about 5% of the entire company float got blown out to the short side. But now that it's come in again, do these guys load back up? So if we can get a little bit of strength here, maybe we can get a nice continuation there, because the fundamentals recovering and the stock doing well, that's amazing. That's exactly what we want to see in order to create that short squeeze. It's the difference between something like, an AMC that just pops for a minute and then disappears, versus like, say, Carvana, right? That had that initial short squeeze, and then ever since then, it's just been ripping, because they were able to utilize that change in momentum in order to change their company, make their company, they raised a bunch of money, they were able to deploy that capital effectively, and they were able to push up.
Yeah, and seeing a little bit more of what about Rocket Company that reports tonight? And that's going to be interesting. RKT reporting tonight. Will be in that space, right? Tell you a little bit more about mortgage and stuff like that. So I think that will have an effect on that Zillow and Open. So keep your eyes on that to see what happens with the RKT. And we'll see what happens. That's also in your specialty finance area. It could have an effect on different names, like even SoFi, right? SoFi is in a good move here, guys. I think this is an interesting one. So everyone started hating SoFi when it did that offering. Remember how I mentioned that was going to be probably used for maybe some dip buying coming back in? Look at it now. It's right back up there, right? It just used that to wash the bulls, to get them scared if they didn't take their money, or just ran to the money as soon as they saw the headline. Now they're seeing it right back at 22.72. What if it takes 25 today? How are you going to be feeling, right? You're going to be like, "Whoa, what did I do, man?" Well, that's
I'm
just
already annoyed, because it looked like it was going to be a pullback, and I agreed with you that it was a buying opportunity. I wanted a little bit more. I was greedy. I wanted us to kind of come back down into this area right here, and we just never got that. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yesterday it was a quick wash. I mean, it wasn't like it was an easy wash to play. We talked about maybe wash through like kind of the 22s. It went down to 20.50, started to like slowly climb back. But man, for it to be back where it's at, it just looks good there. We'll see what happens. Interesting space also, really, at the end of the day. We could see it just continue to boot.
Yeah,
Boom.
no, I think it looks great. I think the faster bad news gets shrugged off like that, the better it is. I just, for
Oh,
my own greedy purposes, I wanted just a little bit
these
more of a play, a little bit more of a pullback to get a little better price, but they just never gave it to me.
lending stocks doing really well. Let's just be honest, right? I talked about how there was like that lend, right? That did really well. Lending tree, that's just tree, that's TREE. There's so
Mhm.
many of these lending companies that are doing really well. There's no reason for them to stop. That's why I'm even looking at an RKT. I'm pushing towards more of that being more of a positive result. So keep looking to see specialty finance, names like that doing well, finance overall, banks overall doing well, right? Smaller banks. We talked about, I know that Steve was watching that Riley. It's right off of a nice little undercut. We'll look to see if it rallies back up. RILY. It's kind of funny. Riley, Riley, rally. We'll see if we get it. All right, guys, let's keep going. Let's take a look to see what happens in the market open here. I could expect the red to green. Looks like that's what's happening out the gates here. Undercut of the support. We talked about 639s. We just undercut that. Let's see if we can like kind of start working our way back here and getting after undercuts, right? Undercuts and rallies. That's what I'll be watching. Let's go trading, guys. I've had some pretty good
Yeah,
weeks, at least the last 2 or 3 weeks, guys. I think it was smart yesterday. I kind of took that kind of break even, very small day, trying to save the gas pedal when we see it, right? We haven't seen it in the intraday as much. It's been a lot of overnight action again, and that happens a lot in earnings, guys, where it's like the overnight move, and then it's like, what do we do now?
yeah, and it's funny, and we've talked about this study before. I think it's an important one to always bring up that if you buy the open, sell the close every day of the market, you don't make a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
It's the
so
other way
far already
around.
pushing.
Most gains, generally speaking, happen overnight. So just know that. That's why I'm following swing. We'll do day trades, thing, because again, most gains happen overnight. But current, just watching the SPY current little bleed down. I think this prior high right here is going to be an important one. Up to here. Right, this is
Yeah,
the high we made
APLD.
after the move. But yeah, APLD, I saw that yesterday, just rocket ship.
Yeah, it's just the earnings though, right? I wouldn't have played it, guys. Like, you know what I mean? I can't act like I would have been playing it. I tried to
Yeah.
play it before this. I played it for an 11 run. It's pushing right now to 13. This thing loves to do red to green. It did do a red to green back up towards it. So maybe the 13 break here. SoFi, kind of a straight green move out the gates there. Nothing really high. I'm not seeing anything over 2% out the gates green here on my watch list. So it tells me more and more. Some pullbacks, ARM with a big pullback. That one's 4%, 5% down. Don't know why they did not like ARM's report, but they really didn't like that report. It's getting crushed.
Mm.
AMD pulling back out the gates also. So doesn't look as
Wow. Yeah.
bullish tech out the gates here today. SoFi though up to 23.17. That's pushing strong. Now that one finally got in the 2%, and Bloom Energy from the open up 2%.
Yeah, it's someone just asking, do I have any stats on buy the close and sell the open? Yeah, so I just brought this up real quick.
Yeah.
This study ends in 2013. I doubt it's dramatically different from there. So the red line is what happened if you bought the open every day and sold the close for this 20-year period. You made no money. This is what happens if you bought the close and sold the open every day. So this is a big premise for why I build a lot of the systems the way I do, where I want to be always swing trading long, knowing that overnight the market generally drifts higher. And then during the day, you see me do a lot of mean reversion because the market, generally speaking, goes nowhere intraday.
What about a mean reversion trade on HIMS? Because this has gotten ridiculous real quick. Of course, I swung it to the upside, so maybe I'm just kind of like in the sense of like kind of revenge back to the downside. But I mean, I did get this right on the upside. It just looks to me like extended, right? Like how many days can it get there? It's 9 days green, up 40%, $67. right here was a prior resistance. Could start using this as a resistance and then get a pullback, at least for the first like maybe 30 minutes. So I might take a shot here just to see if it starts to drop a little bit here and go off to 67.
Yeah,
I'll try it
the
with a small amount here.
relative strength, right, is what kind of stands out to me there, is saying, okay, this is the name that's at least holding up the best, kind of being the most strong. And then I'm just watching the market here. First opening move so far was down, but then we got a little bit of a bounce, a little bit of a push up from that. So I want to make sure that I'm not getting too aggressive to the short side. Although, right, we talk about, when these gaps overnight, sometimes they just need a little breath, need to come down just a little bit.
Yeah, first hour, half hour of the day. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Just got to be careful for a breakout above 67s here. Willing to cut out, right, and then get back in if I need to. That's how HIMS is a lot of the time. So let's see what happens here. 67.14, my risk right now. Let's see if it gets hit here at the 66.50s. Keeps like coming back to this spot right there and then looking like it wants to reject. So let's see if it really starts to hit it now. There we go. There's a nice little starting of the hit. Looking for this to start coming down so I can bring the stop to break even here. Let's see if this can start to get hit here.
Yeah, a pullback off the open seems, very, very totally normal, right? Something that you would expect to.
There we go. Starting to move.
See, right?
All right, up like 26. Nothing crazy yet, but the spread keeps coming back right towards my entry. So I'm going to set a tight risk here and just let it go. $25. I just tightened down half of my risk, right? So like even if I lose this position, it's an opening trade. This is what I've been talking a little bit more on the opening trades, just tighter on the risk, looking for a bigger move, right? Worst comes to worst. Get a $25 stop out here. That's not going to hurt anybody, at least for me. And the way that my normal risk on a trade is towards more 80 to 100. So we're talking about what, like, you know what I mean? Like a fifth of that, right? So we can take that hit, a fourth of that. So we could take that hit 4 times before we take a real risk loss. Here's the 66.98s already showing up again. And there it is. It's trying to break through the 67s. It's just chopping right in between this. Didn't want to get through the move. So I'd rather get out here before the breakout, right? So there's the push to 67.16. You could get a breakout there. I'm not going to stick through that. Chop right there. Let's go to the daily. Let's take a look here. Financial services. I talked about how those can be areas where there could be lift. And it looks like that's happening right out the gates here. Some names really starting to push in the financial service sector.
Yeah,
Applied
overall,
Materials doing really well.
Right, we're still really strong. But what's interesting, one thing I want to point out to people is that the RSP is actually down today. And we talk about the RSP versus the SPY all the time, right? And the SPY is just weighted to large cap tech, and not only large cap tech, but your large cap banks, your large cap healthcare companies. The bigger the cap, the more important you are in the S&P 500. The smaller the cap, right, the less important you are in the S&P 500. So the RSP ends up being one where you can just take a look at it and say, okay, just give me the average. What's the average doing? And the average is down today. So this is very much talked about all the time. Some days it is kind of an everything rally. Sometimes it's very specific sectors and industries. And this is one of those days that it's very specific kind of sectors and industries. So make sure you're focused on the names that are strong. If your name's going up, then it's actually rare today because the RSP is down. If your name is going down, then you're kind of more with the norm. So it's one of those days you don't want to look at your portfolio and say, oh, the SPY's up so much and my stock's down. Does my stock suck? It's like, not today, right? Today it's just saying pretty much everything's down. So we just need to.
And it's also just what's the overnight action, like I talked about, right? The overnight action was so strong that pullbacks here are almost expected, right? And so that plays into the open here. I think you got to look to see if you get some dip buying in your name. We'll see what happens around there. I'm looking around.
Well, I'm even saying from the close. So from the close yesterday, the RSP is down 0.25% and the SPY is up 0.5%. So that divergence between the RSP and between the SPY is it's a pretty big deal, right? It's a big move.
Not seeing much in the green except like APLD. That's the only one kind of like real pushing along. UUUU trying to bounce a little bit. So is Bloom Energy, but I don't see really strong upside trends here. I'm going to go looking into the overall market, but nothing that I really see standing out to me. XLU a little bit, but of course, you know how that one is. That's not the sexiest name to trade. That's kind of more of your safety right now. That is going higher.
Yeah, the SPY sitting right at lows. Looks like it might be looking to break the opening range low here of the day, and we've got nothing really to save us or nothing to tank us, right? We don't have any economic numbers, we don't have any big news events, we don't have any of that. So this should be pure kind of price action. It's not like we're gonna sell off for the first bit of the day and then rip. Pretty much everything we need to know is known until earnings tonight, which there are some, not a huge amount, but there's some out there. So Apple and Amazon obviously being the biggest, being the most important. But yeah, we just need to keep that in mind, that we are in a bit of a
weird trade idea, but I'm looking at T-Mobile.
T-Mobile for an intraday trade.
Yeah, it just looks prime when I'm seeing Verizon and AT&T's chart. It just like all looking like very strong out the gates here. Could be because it's communication services, right? Dividend play. But of course, it recently had earnings and it's starting to come back right back up into that gap. So it filled the gap, right? Not coming back up. So to me, it just feels like very simple throwback look, throwback look, nice breakout above, holding that. It's just a pretty chart. Could be a good swing trade from here. Like, you know what I mean? Like that looks pretty to me.
I don't know if that officially makes you a boomer to be day trading T-Mobile, but it definitely gives you a step closer, that's for sure.
Hey, the dad bod's coming.
Everything can be in play at some point, right? Even these boomers.
Yeah.
But again, you got to talk to your boy. Like, give me a double leverage T-Mobile. I don't need a double leverage Tim's. Give me a double leverage T-Mobile. I'll trade that thing all day long.
Give me a space mobile ETF that includes some space satellite like exposure with these communication names.
Triple leverage.
And then leverage that, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then just make it like high holdings and T-Mobile and Verizon that are not going away anytime soon.
I've been talking to some people in the industry about ETFs, and a lot of these companies they're struggling. They're struggling hard. A lot of these companies. It's same thing.
There's too many, and there's just so much low liquidity in majority of them, man.
Well, that's exactly the problem. So the benefit of ETFs for us retail people is that the fees are low. Yeah. The downside, it means that if you launch an ETF, unless you're a big name, you're not making any money off them. So, and then the problem is, before, when there was only a couple to put your money into, that was okay that you weren't making a lot of money off them. Now that there's tons and tons and tons, like I've heard some real struggles from some of these companies that that might even have to shut doors because there's just no money. Which again, for us, it's great that they're running so lean, but for them, when you come out with 100,000 ETFs and you're making like a couple bucks here or there, it's not a good game.
VIX, it's moving here, man. SPY just keeps free falling here. We're looking for the trend line. At least I'm looking for a trend line play to come into play. That'd be closer towards, like, that could come towards 530, 635, 637. So we're still ways away from there. But man, we have been falling. No bounce right now in the SPY, and that's holding me back from buying like a name like this where it just looks good. That is just free falling there, and led by technology. You know how like we were up by a technology? Well, there you go. This is being led. by technology, down 6.6. And a lot of that is coming from where? Semiconductors, almost down 1%. Software also down 1.3%. I'm sure Microsoft has a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, we talk about the psychology of a lot of this
buying
stuff.
Microsoft, man.
That's kind of what I was about to say, is that you got to think about it. Most people, right? You're a portfolio manager. You're waking up this morning, and all of a sudden, Microsoft is a big part of your portfolio. You slam the sell button, you take a little bit of profits, and then do
Or
you
almost
get a little bit of
50%
buy there?
retracement. I know my man Steve's yelling out there right
Jeez.
now.
Yeah, see, it's hitting the
So
50%. One thing that I know my buddy
that'd be right
Brian,
around this 537, just to
well,
put it out there for traders.
I'm this load. So the 2-day VWAP is 531.5. That might be interesting because that includes all of the post-market action. So the average price, if you miss the move, 532.
All right, one more drop. I'm looking though, MSFL.
Of course. Of course there is.
I knew I was gonna get a reaction from my man out of that one.
Right? But where's my T-Mobile double? I don't need a
So I'm looking for an
Microsoft
undercut
double.
of the 35 level. So undercut of the 35, let's say maybe 34.80s, 34.70s, and then starts coming back through 35. I'll try to get 35 and use that low. Similar way how we started to look at SoFi yesterday. So let's just see if we can tag it here. The market would have to come back, but we're seeing the market slow down around this trend line. That's why I drew this trend line, guys, looking to see if we can come towards it and kind of just bounce off of it. And it just shows me more and more. Look how we're going at least finally off of the top end of the Bollinger Band. So this actually helps for that RSI look and that things for like that to like start dying down a little bit here. I know my RSI is a little different, but I found that one out yesterday. But we'll see if it gets up there back into the 90s. I have no idea. I'll call TC and tell them they're on someone. They're on.
So I got 3 trades on the go here. So this THS, Treehouse Foods, no idea, but reported earnings yesterday. Beat top line and bottom line, just tanking. So filled that a little bit around $19 even. WGS long this name as well. This one's just looking for a pullback inside this range. And then short GNRC. Generac. So this is again a second day, looking for a big extension yesterday, shorting into this move yesterday. Today, so far, I think all 3 of these are slightly underwater. But again, that's the game plan. It's always how I've noticed trading these 6 systems together is the way it works. Right? You're scaling into up to 10 or 20 positions off the open, looking for mean reversion. These have really wide stops on them because the risk management isn't the stop. The risk management is I'll take 20 of them and then hope in the long run it's a they all net out. So each individual don't care.
Right? Generac is also seasonality play around here. I will say that though, just as a preference out there, this is just a hurricane play all the time into July. People are trying to front run it into hurricanes or anything to do with weather. And it has a tendency of just ripping. But that's just something to think about, right? At least during these times, right? It's storm season, like Tak said. Yeah, it's storm season. So people just buy it for no reason on that, Michael. They have no speculative buying.
They blew out earnings yesterday for sure. Right?
Yeah, it's always going to help it, right? But
an extension above that.
So that tsunami warnings that were for Hawaii, the Pacific, and then people just buy this thing, man. They love to buy it in the storm season. So good earnings, good catalyst that could come. This one does though turn around fast though. So
this is, and I'll just start marking my entries on them too for the folks. But yeah, it's 109.90 or 190.86, right? Is where, so kind of right in that area right there. 190, yeah. And then yeah, THS is around $19.
All right, SPY starting to turn. Microsoft around that level. It tapped
Yes.
35. I haven't seen below 35. That's what I'm waiting for, guys. Liquidity to come in here.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I talked about in the morning. I said I want to see this level hold. Right. And this was, you had the post earnings move, and this is where all that came out. And we chopped around here for a while. So this was an area that sellers came in, all of that, all that interesting stuff. We come back down there, and so far we bounced. So we need to see some more than just this, couple minute candle, this 5-minute candle hold. 10 minutes or 20 minutes into the day. So I'd like to see a little bit more action hold there. But this IWM has just been ripping here off the open. So this is crazy to see. We're seeing this revision down, right? If you look at just from the opening price, let's ignore everything else and let's just do one day and just focus on today only. Here's the opening price on IWM. Sold off a little bit, but is now at today's high, trying to break today's high. So small caps breaking today's high. The average large cap on its way back up to breaking today's high. But then you look at big cap tech, sold off all day, nowhere near its highs. And then you have SPY sold off all day, nowhere near today's high. So this was definitely a sell big cap tech off the open and buy everything else. So a revision of what happened overnight. So now that we've kind of blown that off, now I think it's okay. Do we continue this, or if big cap tech stops going down, we could have an interesting move here from the rest of the market?
3 setups I'm watching here: NNE, Microsoft, and Meta. Meta holding the best above VWAP, looking like the most bullish stock of the 3. NNE is just a 37 recovery. So you can see Meta on the 15-minute. I'll show you how it's just holding above VWAP. That's good signs. You see there's wicks underneath VWAPs, but bodies above VWAPs. That's good sign here. Let's see if it can take up there towards 790, kind of lead the party back. Microsoft starting to slow down right around the level that we just talked about. So that's really looking good here. I'm looking for one more tick down on Microsoft and then reversal to start playing in. And I'm looking at MSFL, but it's really what you want to look at. I'm looking for a slight tick underneath 35s here. We'll see if we get it. MU cause ASML to tank? No. Those are 2 separate areas, guys. MU is a semiconductor company. ASML is an equipment making company, right? It's completely different. But it does affect this. What this could tell me, no China deal. That's what this could be, guys. So just to give you guys perspective of what could lead tech down today, if it's really something negative, it's maybe like China news that we don't even know. And we all know how, especially right now in the market, we keep getting news that we don't know and someone else does. So just be careful out there, guys. I'm just going to be pure out saying it. We keep getting news late, and everybody, at least the rich, knows, and then we get the moves. So just be careful out there. I will say that. I am playing the dip. I'm with you guys, but I am going to put out there what could be the scare in tech names. It has all to do with China.
So I am.
CoreWeave is a bet that I saw a lot of people say if Microsoft is going to do that good, CoreWeave's report should do well. And CoreWeave is now a buy. So I'm just going to put that out there for other traders to know that. Nice reversal looking pattern, starting the day off well and getting towards 118 here. I think this is a good look, right? Good look here on CoreWeave.
Took a short here on HIMS. The robot did.
I saw what I saw.
So it's with you. Again, this is just a very simple overextension play, right? I don't want to give up the goose, but for those who've studied, you can look at Larry Williams 2-period RSI play. It's the same type of idea. But yeah, it's just basically saying it's looking at an overextended stock, and it's saying if this overextended stock rips even more that the next day, like 1 ATR from where it's normally gone, take a little bit of a short, right? Stop's really wide. Stop's $75, right? So these are really, really wide stops. I get stopped out, I think, on 5% of my trades. It doesn't mean that that's the amount of losers, right? The losers are 45% of the trades, but the idea is that you have a stop really just for absolute worst case protection. And then you're just giving everything a whole lot of room in order to give it a chance to move, right? That's the idea behind the
Uh,
bot trading.
This looks like it could be right negative news in China, but at least from what I'm seeing out there, guys, this looks like the perfect like kind of squat them before I rip them kind of move, especially for the semiconductor equipment stocks. You see how it's a squat now with that big wick underneath it on the daily. I'm not jumping really quickly, but I'll say that at least from what I see, that's not bad action here. It could actually mean that they're kind of buying that dip, and now we're going to start getting more of that strength to come in. And the market has changed tunes from the bottom here overall, right? We're starting to work our 15-minute bar right back. Microsoft's still not coming back, though. That's why I'm still not jumping in just yet. I'm looking for Microsoft to get that big buying here to start showing up through the 35s, or at least for me on the MSFL, and then we'll start to jump in the party. We'll see if we get it. APLD, still the best stock right now on my watch list. That's up 9%. UUUU up about 3%. 2.5. That one's not too bad. SoFi, I talked about it, man. Look at that SoFi move right back.
Wow.
Man,
Yeah, IWM just ripped
Yeah.
positive. IWM was down like 1%
it
today.
looked good.
So yeah, it's
Look at on the
like,
daily. This is why it's important to look at daily sometimes than just the intraday, right? Like if you sometimes look at the daily, that looks like a dip, squat them before I rip them higher. So if
mhm.
anything, this is a good time to play like risk down towards support and given your ability to look for a good reward to the upside. Remember, I think Michael and I would agree. As long as you have good risk to return, you could take pretty much any trade. There's really
I
not.
don't. Yeah, I say it all the time. As long as you have an out, I don't care what you do.
Yeah,
It-
there's
it-
really it's not about like you don't have to make it so much about stock specific.
yeah,
Sometimes if the setup is just there and you just want to trade the setup, you understand what the setup is, you
mhm.
understand the risk and the return and how the stock moves. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking a trade. So this is a
Yeah.
perfect style
I
for
don't
that.
care if you're trading like moon phases or like what. It doesn't matter if you have.
I think we're
There
looking
is an
for that
experiment
bottoming
done.
out.
That might be an interesting experiment as well. But there's I've done this experiment. A whole handful of
Take a
people
swing
have done it
now.
where you take a random trade every day and you make sure your risk rewards on point, and eventually you'll make money. Right? You take a completely random. I'm going to flip a coin whether or not to buy or sell the SPY, and I'm going to target 2 times the risk. It's eventually you end up doing you at least break even to make a little bit of money, which is better than most traders out there, which
Mhm.
is just funny that random action can help with that. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't, if you got a plan, you got an out, I don't care what you do.
Swings on for NNE off of the low here. I'll risk towards like 3770s, 3678, slightly below the VWAP. Looking for this to rip back up higher, back towards 3875s. Just gonna try to just push it here. Let's see if it starts to get that push. MSFL is getting that dip now where I can start to look to see if buyers step in here and it comes back through 35. I will be trying to take that one on the day trade. And I got NNE on the swing. We'll see what happens out there. Can the SPY hang in there? Coming to you, Michael. What are you seeing?
Well, WGMI is very interesting here. So big pullback here on WGMI again is the CoinShares Bitcoin mining ETF. So
Yeah.
your Clean Sparks, your Maras, your Riots, that kind of thing. Nice pullback into that zone, gapped up today, and it's just been continuing. The reason I found that I just went to my little heat map, and this is the biggest. This and ARC are the two most interesting ETFs that are on here. So NLR is moving as well. So you talked already about NNE, right? I think SMR. The fact that nuclear ETF is there and is super interesting is definitely something I want to keep an eye on. SMR, I really, full disclosure, right? I'm in this stock. I've been holding it for seemingly ever. And this chart looks really nice, coiling up near highs. So a couple sectors are doing good. And it's, your day that ARC is outperforming the S&P 500 at highs, both intraday and daily. that's not a bearish day to me. When ARK is the craziest, most speculative stuff on planet Earth, and that starts to hit highs before the S&P 500, before the Qs, right, before IWM. That's the craziest junk in all the market is doing the best. That's a risk on day to me.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to, man. Let's see if we can really start to get this to drive. Just looking to see if we can get to start to push back. Microsoft finally doing that move for me. Now it's more the matter of, will they step up here? Remember I talked about how right into like the 70s, I was looking for the step up. So now it's like, does the volume come in here and can I get a wick and a recovery of 35? And I think that that's the important thing. If I start loading up too early here, it could just drop and keep dropping. So essentially not trying to buy the knife action, trying to buy the reversal once this goes and then starts to give me a bullish engulfing candle on the way back up. So that would mean this kind of like giving me a nice green bar up to this level. That'd be a good look, right? So that's the kind of fill that I'm looking for the action to start coming back. Let's see if it does it. Another thing is, this is what? One wave, two waves, three waves, and now the fourth wave down, looking for the reversal to come into play. And that NNE not looking too bad on the first action up. Let's see if this starts to really kind of push. That's on the swing trade. That's bottom left here.
Yeah, it's an interesting day. They kind of tried to spook you a little bit off the open.
Oh yeah,
and then
they did.
ever since then they've reversed it. So that shows just an underlying bid. Right? It shows there's a whole bunch of managers out there that looked at the earnings report and said, "Oh crap, we missed it." Right? If we come down, if we pull back at all today, we want to just pop in, right? Put an underlying bid in, see if we can grind back to highs after that. So
MSTR ripping strong, guys. If you're looking for some relative strength, there it is.
If the Ponzi's going, right?
The Ponzi's going, guys. The Ponzi is going.
Be
All
bullish,
right, guys.
bullish
Continuing
Ponzi
to watch
schemes.
that. We'll see what happens there in Microsoft if it starts to come back. It's right off of that level that I was looking at. I'm still waiting there to start seeing the strength come back in, but it could be fast. So just putting it on alert. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and bring on another trader here with us to keep on trading on, guys. So if you guys have a stock you guys want to watch, make sure you throw it up in the chat. And welcome, of course, David Rosa to the chat. What's going on to the stream? What's going on, David? How we doing?
Not too bad this morning. Down slightly this morning, but everything's in the pocket still. Was looking at AMD this morning.
Yeah.
I'm really bullish on where it's going. It's got a lot of catch up to it. It was kind of, and it's been rallying quite a bit. So I've been looking at that. I'm only down $30 on the day. So all in all, I look for stocks that have that underlying bid, even if it's a negative day, because I tend to scalp between levels. So I like to try and play those. So even if I'm wrong, I'm not that wrong. I can get a bit of a reversion off of it. If you're not quick enough to get that initial move, a lot of times you can catch that reversion. And going into the morning, I did feel like we were going to sell off a little bit, not because the market was bearish. Nothing to feel bearish about, but
yeah,
boy, those moves in Meta and Microsoft last night, I mean, it got kind of frothy up there. So, but yeah,
it did. That it did. Yeah, man, feel free to share your charts also, and we'll just keep trading along if you see a setup or anything you're looking at. And we'll also ask you along the way a little bit more about your trading background and maybe some strategies you use.
Sure.
Of course, you can focus on the trading action. If you're in a trade or want to talk about it, feel free.
Yeah, I just got stopped out of AMD, so I'll go ahead and we'll talk about what my plan was on that. And what I was doing. It's still going up without me, but that's okay. All we do is miss trades here. Let me share the entire screen, because kind of the way I got my layout set up is like multiple tabs. So yeah, I think I've went ahead and shared that there. And
yeah, I got you, David. I can bring you up here. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at this. I got to bring mine down, but that's just because the way that the setup is. But there it is. Got your screen up there so you can see it here. And
yeah, we'll talk through this real quick. So I was playing the 180 level ahead of the 179.50 level, and basically defending the close on dip buys. On bullish stocks, on stocks that I generally feel feel bullish on the daily, I'll look to defend that close, scalp out a piece, and then see if we you know, the sellers were exhausted. We did get that 945 number this morning. So that was something to be very cognizant of. So off that number, we did dip down a little bit lower. And then we'll zoom in a little bit here, and we can see this is a 3-minute chart. And you can kind of see this 3-minute chart, you know, call it a little bit of a doji with a longer bottom wick. And then so I was playing the breakout of that calendar of that candle at that point at 179, tight stop, replay the level, and then try to ride it back up to the upside. I had a 50-cent stop on this. When I'm counter trending, my stops are going to be a little bit tighter than they are when I'm going with the trend, because there's no reason to really give it too much of the benefit of the doubt, especially when you're scalping. So I didn't want it making a 50-cent move against me, even if I'm positive on the position. So I was able to, so this last trade was really, really good. But again, yeah, down $30 on the day. So now it's time for me to just kind of sit back, relax, and then see what the market is going to do. Again, I do feel bullish. So I have to understand that that's my bias. So I have to, now I'm going to look for stocks that performed well off that opening rush and see if I can't join the trend on that. Hood's looking really good this morning, for example.
Yeah, nice little comeback on that one. Do you normally are into red to green strategies? What kind of more
My
your
primary setup, my
Yeah.
primary setup is something that's rising in the pre-market in an orderly fashion that
Okay.
shows the bid is kind of creeping up, you know. So and I look to trade that pattern into a breakout. That's my primary setup.
Like the look.
And so, you know, I didn't find any clear examples of that this morning because we sold off quite a bit going into the open, and that bid didn't really sustain. So then it was like, so nothing that I was looking at was really setting up there. Now at this point, so then then today was moving to the dip buys, but you know, the first, you know, 3 trading sessions this week, you know, I think I took a SoFi long, Palantir long, and an AMD long, and they had those kind of setups. So that's my primary setup. And then now I go into the intraday, see what's above the moving averages. I only use the moving averages to track the trend. If the moving averages are rising, it doesn't mean the market has to respect them, but I want to see that they are currently rising. And usually what I have here, I trade off a 3-minute chart when I'm scalping, but I'll base my moving averages on the 1-minute chart. So I just took the moving averages and divided them by 3, and that'll give me a good approximation of the 50-period moving average on the 1 minute and the 200-period moving average on the 1 minute. And then I'll look at, and then I mean, I don't know a trader that doesn't look at VWAP. So VWAP's always going to be up there, and I'm going to look to see that they're rising if I'm trying to trend trade that. So that's my primary strategy, is to try to break out that pre-market high. But that's got to be that initial move. If it doesn't go right away, it's not going to go for you. So you get your answers real quick.
So you're trading A&D today. You normally large cap, small cap, or just kind of whatever?
I like large cap stocks. And the reason I like them is most generally they could be volatile for sure, and they can give you those moves. But with the small caps, in terms of my execution speed, when the bid falls off of those things, because I primarily like to trade long, when the bid kind of comes off of those things, it comes off quick. And if you place an order and you don't have your stop set up right away, you can kind of see that. And it's a lot of times they could be very competitive. So where I'm at is I just, because I've looked at large caps so much, I understand how they move. So I can you can discern the difference on the tape. You can discern the difference in the volume. And so I have a better understanding because that's what I studied. But that's just, you know, personal preference for me.
All right, guys, starting to see Microsoft come back a little bit here, still in NNE. Can show you guys that trade. That trade's looking a lot better, up above 3780s now. I got in 3729. So looking for that. That's a swing trade. As we'll look to see if maybe some of the nuclear names can start pushing towards the top end of my watch list. I do see him still working well. Rigetti pushing strong. APLD really strong, of course. SoFi, once you know it. Like I'm telling you guys, there's gonna be those traders that see this thing back maybe today at 25, and they're just like, "Why the hell did I sell?" Because SoFi is on a momentum breakout move. It is on a bigger time trend line break. This looks to me like Palantir, where it can get to the all-time high, 28, and then tell you, forget 28, I want 50 or something like that. So I think SoFi is definitely a name.
Well, and I think
you
it's
can hang
a
in there.
catch-up name to HIMS, right? There's how many people are so mad that they didn't get involved in that epic HIM or not HIMS hood move, right?
Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, this is another fintech. It's another new company. The
Making
chart
the right moves and
up,
stuff like
right?
that. Yeah.
I'll grab, if
Yeah,
you
I got you.
grab, hey, so look at this chart and just soak this in for a minute, right? And then just go to hood, right? And tell me that that doesn't look just like hood did before its breakout. So I think there's a lot of people out there saying, I missed the hood, I missed the coin, right? So now maybe the SoFi is the way to go. And I'm kind of with them, right? I told you guys I was mad because I was hoping that offering news would get us in to this area. This is what I was looking at, these prior highs. So I was like, give me 19. I'll buy it at 19. And of course it stopped at 20 and it's just ripping to new highs now. So I'm a little bit mad. While we were talking there, the robot took another trade shorting Calm. CommScope Holdings company, and it's just again a very bearish candle yesterday, bouncing into that today. So currently 3 shorts. So on HIMS that just came back to flat, and then GNRC, which is about flat, and then long this THS, which I'm up quite a bit on now. You can see that this purple line was the entry. This is again, I don't know what happened here. This is why I have no idea about earnings, because I look at it and I say, well, you beat top line, you beat bottom line, should be a good thing, but completely fell apart off the open. You can see
Not
the
the way it
price in
works.
there. Oh, so good on that one. And then
You got the
WGS,
Google treatment.
last one. Yeah, exactly.
You got that. Yeah. And, you guys mentioned, like, I love that, the fintech stocks, I call it new age finance, right? The SoFis, the hoods, the
Affirm.
Webull. Like, you look at that basket of stocks, and these companies actually, when you start to dig into the things that they're doing, they're doing some pretty nice things for their customers, right? Offering better interest rates, and Hood had a bad rap for a long time and very well understood, but I think they learned their lessons from that, and then they're coming out with all these other product offerings that are very appealing, especially to that younger demographic who's gonna be in the workforce for longer, whose earnings expectancy is gonna last a little bit longer than some of the older folks. And yeah, like it's quite expected to me, especially with all of the changes in the market, 24/5 trading, the PDT rule, like being changed possibly later this year. These whether it's like a hood, or if you're doing a lot of regular banking from SoFi, these companies I feel will continue to kind of be in favor. And I think that SoFi has kind of weathered the storm already on the end of the loan forgiveness, the Biden era loan forgiveness, and there's a bit there, right? So these companies stand to benefit in quite a big way. Webull has the biggest risk, right? Just that Chinese tie-in a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's always that political headwind in terms of that. But boy, $10 it's like you just buy it at 10 and see where it goes. You can kind of place it simple there. So
I couldn't agree more. People don't change their banks, right? I've been with the bank only because my parents opened an account when I was young, and that's the bank. Like, and you would have to give me a lot to go through the pain in the ass of like moving the mortgage and the this and the that. So yeah, people don't do it. So yeah, that's kind of Robin Hood's mentality. It's one of the reasons I like it so much. Is you get them while they're young, and then as they start to age, you have all these other products for them. You're going to keep them forever. People aren't going to shift unless you do something real bad.
Unless you're
It's not gonna
smart.
happen. So
Unless you're smart. But
Most people, I love it. We've had this
Way though,
debate
right?
before.
we've had this debate. Yes, we have. I always say
Most
it, guys.
people,
It's
zero
like when you're on
commissions
the
is
road,
amazing.
majority of the people don't know how to drive. It's not the majority knows how to drive. It's the opposite. It's the majority doesn't know how to drive, and that's why you got to protect yourself.
Yeah, and I think zero commissions are great for if you're just dollar cost and average into the SPY. You don't care that you're losing a couple, that they're scalping you for a couple ticks every time you come in. It's only us
Yeah, it's
active nerds that have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right, guys. I did take a PDD trade today based on the charts out there, and just looking at different China trades. Baba hot this morning. PDD hot this morning. Could that be potential China deal? The fun part is FXI is down. It was down at the gates, and now it's starting to bounce back. So I'm wondering, do we get some China talk here? I'll bet on that. I'll take a shot on that. I was looking at China yesterday. It didn't want to do it yesterday. Maybe today's the day.
K-Web's interesting. These prior highs in K-Web.
Literally looking
Hey,
at it too, 35-30s.
broke out.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good range right here, right? In with a good China deal versus a China pushback. That's what I want to hear. That could be the flip to really push the market, because the market's expecting to hear a delay, more like a further pushback of the tariff deal with China. Does Trump just get ballsy and say, you know what, I'll take the deal? Find out.
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be a sell the news event though, when they're finally the would they won't they of China for so long.
But this is that's the thing though. Right now it would be more based on a pushback. So it would be an unexpected deal close.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those unexpected news catalysts to come in here and either drive or tank the market, really. But
yeah,
I'm looking
I
for
think
something.
it just really depends on where it's priced in and what the market's done most recently up to that announcement too, right?
Yeah.
You know, if the market's tapering off, right, or oscillating or consolidating near its recent lows, then you could potentially, I would lean the long, right?
Yeah.
But if we've been running, right, and it's just gotten that expensive, and technically it's a good take profit, you know, then yeah, it could be a bit of a sell the news event, a bit of consolidation, and then the market kind of rebids up. And you know, I think we saw a micro example of that this morning. Really bullish
Microsoft
earnings,
entrance.
really bullish earnings, and on some really large companies. And then all of a sudden, you know, we sell off this morning, but we're not bearish, so it could be that kind of action. And who knows what are the terms of the deal, right?
Yeah.
Is the deal softer than what was previously announced? It's not. You know, I mean, as much as we've trying to, you know, as traders kind of try and figure that out and how to navigate that, could you imagine the Fed trying to figure that out?
I think you look at the stock price action to tell you it all, man. And that's export controls. It's all about export controls. It's all about giving China what they want, which is access to AI. And they want access to AI as long as Trump's willing to give on that side, which we've already seen in the news. If you're really following the flow,
yeah,
that's all that needs to happen here. That's all China wants. They want to not be, you know, tariffed an insane amount because they ship a crap load of stuff here, right? But another thing is, what can we give them, and then they can work somewhere in there in between there. Maybe they're willing to accept a 20% tariff as long as they have access to AI chips.
Yeah, it could
you
be.
Know what I mean, right?
20% doesn't. I think we've been conditioned to feel like 20% ain't that bad anymore. You know, like all this 145 and all this stuff. So like it's like 20, and you know, as we talk about AI though, and its continued build out, if you will. I mean, is there a day where nuclear names don't look like a great long? Like, my goodness, I'm looking at SMR right now.
This is the thing. I'm big on this space, man. I was early on SMR. We're talking 850 entrance.
Nice.
So a big part of this is looking at the little details. That's what I do a lot, man, is just focus on those little details that are given in earnings reports. And this all started with an Oracle mention. And that's what really got things going of small nuclear reactors. Now, where I've seen things go more is this FLNC, this Bloom Energy, the battery storage first, then nuclear is going to come into play. Because let's be honest, no one's building a small nuclear reactor for their AI infrastructure this moment. They're looking to do this, right? So what's going to happen is, what's the first solution? First solution is battery storage. Big lithium batteries just holding up there in the corner. And then eventually they'll be like, well, we don't want to keep all this like empty ground. Why? Let's start working towards nuclear. They're going to need supporting from Trump. I think that's where things go in the future, but that's also future thought. First would be names like this. That's why GEV does so well, because they're diversified in this. They nuclear, they do the gas turbines, and they have access to battery storage also. So in the end, you got to look at names like this to keep going, and then speculative names will come up and down, like SMR and NNE. They're going to come up and down, but they're not bad names to have. I would definitely be looking at these. They're just so strong. But GEV is definitely one of the ones that I would say, hey, I've already told certain people, I'm like, yeah, this is the one to put in your child's account, not your account, because this is a monster.
Bold.
Yeah, and there's rare times that I say that. Rare times. There's only one other trade I would say right now for that, and that's SQM. Because I look at these types of like long-term trends and things changing. Lithium is going to change, guys. It's going to come back into favor at some point. We just got to see when that comes into play. Let's go to the overall market. Let's do a quick look here of how things are looking. Mike, I'll let you also talk about what you're seeing in the market. I'm seeing us stay right near that VWAP. We're trying to hold in here. We're trying to dig in. Maybe we get one more drop, but I don't see us cutting that 638. We'll see what happens here. If we do get a flush through that would be a triple bottom in an area. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, it's the same thing I was saying, is we're glued to VWAP, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we say, hey, we're range bound, just wait until XYZ economic report comes out or something, but we don't really have anything that's going to really push us one way or another. So could be one of those, right? We just tanked off the open to scare everyone. Now we just kind of consolidated in a range. I think you mark that low that we made today. I think you mark the pre-market high of 641. And within that range, you're just not really trusting anything. You're not too worried about whatever's happening. And then, just always remind yourself, look across the board here and just see IWM the SPY is up 0.7%. IWV, which is your Russell 3000. So your Russell 3000 represents basically 98% of the investable universe, cap weighted. That's up 0.6%. So again, most stocks are doing fine. And then I want you to just look at RSP, which is flat, which is your equal weight S&P 500. And then your IWM, which is also flat. So, it's could be a bit of a do nothing today. It's one of those that if you were in large cap tech, you're loving life. And then everything else is just kind of middling around flat. And then I also got another trade here on the bot. So we're in 3 longs and 3 shorts. I bought this ESS, whatever Essex Properties Trust is. I don't know if that's like England or something, but just a little mean reversion here on this one. So we've got 3 longs, 3 short, which I like. That's kind of the goal, is to be as hedged as I possibly can throughout the day and just loading in. We're in the load in phase of the bot, and then we'll see what happens at the end of the day. The HIMS is actually finally starting to look okay. I thought I might just be completely run over on that one, but we put in a little bit of a topping candle here on the 15-minute. We're flirting here with VWAP as well. And then the GNRC and RC, the other short one, same kind of thing. So just with the whole market, a lot of these names are just kind of consolidating or chilling out.
Order to add now, guys, and Microsoft about to come in here. So as we start to get back above on MSFL, above the 35s, looking to start adding on this. Looking good around here, guys, especially NNE. I'm looking to add on 38s. It already broke 38. I'm just looking for a little bit of a comeback. That's almost up $100 here. So I like the NNE, the way that's working. What are you seeing out there, David? Any setups that you're starting to look at here? We can.
I'm taking a quick peek at AMD. Still trading within the opening 3-minute candle.
Yeah.
So it's been, which is also basically the 15, kind of holding into the same range. It's testing VWAP, but this is not one. The difference between just sitting on VWAP, right, and just buying it off that level and giving it a wait and see is that we haven't broken out of this range, right? Like we tested down here a little bit, we bid back up, we test up here near these highs into that opening print, the high of the day being 160 or 182.49. We didn't quite get there. We failed the 182 level. Now we're down here testing below 181, which is that VWAP test. So we'll see what kind of happens. The trend is starting to flatten out a little bit. So we'll see if we form a higher low. I kind of like it more towards if we're going to be range bound, right? As Michael was saying, and if we're just going to consolidate, then this is a good wait and see if we can't test down here near the lows, defend the close. I love closing prints. I think they're very important to me. So if we're going to defend the close, then I can adjust the risk and the position size based off of, defending the low of the day and enter in and around this closing price. So I'm kind of looking at that. I was trying to get a dip buy in something like an SMR. I was looking and I just, no entry for me up here. I was looking to see, we were a few minutes ago in and around, right when I was coming on the stream or a couple minutes after, I thought we were going to get a dip into VWAP. I had an order sitting at VWAP to get filled. And it kind of married up to a couple other things, a 50% retracement, and seeing if it was just going to be, it's orderly, but the bid in this thing is continuing to march higher. So just going to have to wait on that as well. If it gets too extended, then I'll start to look for a reversion, like if we start really skipping away from VWAP. So those are the two setups that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I have a stop set in that NNE for green already. So at this point, I can just set that off, see if it keeps running or we pull back here, back to VWAP. If we pull back to VWAP, I want out because I'm just slightly above VWAP. So in this case, we'll see if I get cut out here towards the 37.70.
Yeah, see, NVIDIA on the intraday just
already
didn't retrace nearly as much. Really just kind of, I thought this was going to be I wouldn't say the race to 200 was really interesting, and it's still a really interesting thing. Obviously, NVIDIA being a much larger market cap, it was kind of like a little, kind of like a meme to see which one would hit that $100 price point first. And AMD and NVIDIA both sold off. AMD a little bit more this morning, and now you see NVIDIA kind of fading off.
SPY fading here.
SPY fading. The Qs. Since I primarily trade those tech stocks, I'm looking at the Qs as well. And yeah, that's hovering near the bottoms of the range since the open. So, just kind of a little meh, if you will. But that's okay. Most of trading is waiting.
Yeah, definitely.
I think early on in your trading career, you start to try to manufacture those setups a little bit. And you're looking to be like, yeah, let's force the action. And, that usually doesn't end very well. And the worst thing that could happen to you is that it works. And then all of a sudden you have an undue confidence. So you just sit there and wait and find something at a price that you like and then look for the setup that you like. Right now, really just nothing there setting up in terms of the things that I'm watching. But Carvana up like 22% on the day. Like,
that's crazy.
Guys, used cars. Yeah, I was talking about in 2024. It wasn't going to be new cars that were going to do well in 2025. It just wasn't going to be, man. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
There's how many people that can pay $70,000 and live on a middle class income for their vehicle? Just
at a higher interest rate.
At a higher interest rate.
Higher interest rate, 70 grand on higher interest of $1,200 monthly payment for a car. No, that's crazy.
And it's funny. I bought 2 cars last month just because we needed another one. And then, of course, right after we bought that, the first one died. So just the way it goes. But yeah, it was the same thing. It was cheaper to buy a new car than it was to buy a used car in a lot of cases because the interest rates were lower. Used cars, they were saying like 6-7%, and we got financed at 1%.
I will tell
For the
you
new
right
cars,
now,
which
you
is
cannot
crazy.
find that here, Michael. You
Oh
cannot
yeah.
find that here in the US. You would
Most cases
I
we
can
found for new
guarantee you
cars is,
cannot find that here.
well, the difference, yeah, our base rate is 2.5 and yours is 4.75.
Yeah,
But
exactly,
yeah,
dude. The
it
car
was
right now, you want to know what they're giving new cars out for?
6. Let me guess.
Perfect credit, near 7.
Wow. Yeah, that
Perfect
was
credit.
so our used car market, they're selling, that's what the interest rate is on the used car market, was around 7. So yeah, we
Yeah.
bought 2 giant Volkswagen SUVs, and they're the reason we went with Volkswagen is they're like, we're having a 0.99% interest rate deal. I'm like, I'm in, give me 2. Because yeah, it's really, it's the difference between, you know, we were buying, looking at used cars because I hate buying new. As a trader, it feels wrong to buy a new car because it just depreciates the second you buy it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I usually look for something that's like a year old or something like that. And yeah, it was just the interest rates made it just didn't make any sense. Like, might as well buy new at this point. And yeah, topsy turvy up here in Canada.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that everywhere. But yeah, it's just interesting because Carvana was left for dead, right? They were like, "Oh, this thing's going to get
Hmm.
delisted, yada yada yada," and then we're trading at $400, and I'm like, "Huh?" Like, good for them. They figured out how to make those vending machines work, and they said they
Yeah.
were going to turn it around, and these guys over the past couple of years, they absolutely did, and yeah, I mean if manufacturing of newer vehicles is going to get more expensive, that's only going to add to the price.
Hmm.
Labor is probably going to be a continued thing, and I think a lot of times too, at least here in the U.S. market, a lot of people just don't have a taste of a taste for what's coming out of there, right? Uh,
Yeah.
uh, and even a company like Tesla they've got their headwinds too, and I don't think quality is an issue for them. I just
Yeah.
think it's they don't want their cyber trucks vandalized or whatever. So it's just there's a lot. It's a weird dynamic right now. Not that we haven't seen this in the car industry before, but it's very interesting that U.S. manufacturers are lacking a lot of real true innovation, and you see these EVs coming out of China at 60% of the price, and you're like, oh, like, and the rest of the world's kind of pivoting, and they're like, well, we'll buy these Chinese EVs, and and we're having to do a lot of protection here in the U.S. For these auto manufacturers, and I think that's also benefiting a company like Carvana, where they're just like, yeah, we're just going to keep selling these used vehicles, and um, from what I could tell, it seems like a fairly smooth buying experience, not your typical dealer experience. And I think that's appealing to a lot of people. And it shows in the price of the stock.
We will see what happens with this stock if it can keep running. Looking around, the market's kind of been on pause since pretty much 10 a.m. And we're on this kind of just wait and see mode here to see if we can continue to the upside. I think we're still looking good, but there's really a lot of chop in between this. So we got to see what happens, I think, in the next 15 minutes, 30 minutes here going into 11. But it's a little bit choppy there. I did get out of some of my MSFL. I just cut half of the size just because we're not moving. And so when we're not moving, I'd rather reduce size and then take a bigger loss all of a sudden. So I just cut half of the position here. Might get cut out of all of it at 34 80s. But looking to see if Microsoft can come back today. That's an important stock for me. If it's going to come back, the market's going to come back. If not, I'm also watching BXX to see if we start to get another spike above the 4130s. NNE, I'm already out of that one, guys. It's pulling back to the VWAP. It seems like I think this one could come back to 37. So I'm just glad I got out of it because if not, I would have got break even. At least I got a small gain out of it. something to help me with the next risk. So we'll look to see what happens with that one. It did get up to 38. Maybe could have sold it for like an $80 win, but I was looking for a little bit of a bigger run. Chat's talking about different things, turtle trading systems, and other people are talking about also about what you mentioned about dealing with a manufactured trade, right? What did you learn there, and how to deal around that? Maybe you can expand on it, David. What do you think?
So internal mechanism for me, right? Again, I'm not the smartest person in the world, right? I like to simplify things as much as possible, right? The market is simply what? People buying and people selling. So when you go to the grocery store, you make an educated decision on what you want, at what price, and how you want to interact with that product. And then you purchase that product knowing full well that you've accepted that. So why wouldn't we do that in markets? So a lot of times I just try to simplify that to like, what am I okay with? What am I okay with paying for something at? And I understand that these decisions, depending on the time frame that you trade, can accelerate, right? So really, I set an alert in and around the price, and then I wait to see if the setup shows itself. And I'm just, if I make one trade per day, which is really all I've done this week, right? And make that one trade per day, that's okay. Like, I think that's really what's kind of helped me in terms of like not trying to manufacture the setups. And then rules-based trading, right? When folks talk about it, like you do have to go back and look at when this worked for me, what was the market doing? What was the stock doing? What all those factors, make sure you note those. And I have literally a sheet of paper with my rules literally written on them to remind myself, because in the heat of the moment, you'll like discard those things, right? So you'll look and say, is this trade following all my rules? Once you do that, don't you want to make money, but don't start off wanting to make money. And it sounds kind of ridiculous. Start off trying to make good setups, get your wraps in. If you're in an evaluation account, right? And say it's one of those flex accounts and you can hold that thing for the entire year and keep that thing alive, you're winning, right? You're winning, because most people pay really high tuition in these markets, and you don't necessarily have to do that. Just be patient with yourself, find what works for you. You'll find a strategy, you'll find the setup that works for you. Everybody's different in terms of how they see things, how their brain perceives information, and they can execute off of that. Once you figure out what works for you, just do it. Whatever, if you're a perma bear or a perma bull, doesn't matter, right? Look for the setup that works for you. Trade it. And then once you've figured out and you've got like something that you're comfortable with, that you can sit there and stay, I call it in the pocket, right? Your emotional pocket. Everything's chaos around you, but your mind is clear and you're just distinctively looking at the price action and you're okay with what happens. Now you know you've got a setup that you can actually put bigger risk on, and then you can maximize your profits using that setup, because now you know what works for you. But that doesn't take a week. That doesn't take 2 weeks. That takes a lot of time. For everybody's a little bit different, but that's really what helped me, is like, give yourself a little grace, be patient with yourself, simplify things. And then as you move along, once you become a CMT like Michael here, and you could dissect more pieces of information, more pieces of data, then you start to incorporate a lot of those data sets into your trading, because you can actually work with that piece of information. But if you're going through and adding all the indicators to your chart day one of trading in the markets, you're not going to be able to see anything. You have to kind of work your way to there. You can make a lot of money in this business, and that's fine, but nothing that's worth having is easy. And the market, not easy. So be patient with yourself and be in a community. Talk to other traders, obtain information, support each other. Like, I think that's really helped me too, in being able to have conversations with other traders and be supportive about what we're doing. A discussion on whether we think a company is great or not is different than trying to trade price action.
Yeah. And I love the, anything about rules-based trading tickles my fancy as the resident kind of quant. So yeah, I love that. I've noticed that all the traders I talk to and traders I've mentored and all that kind of stuff, everything changes as soon as that simple piece of paper you held up, right? And just having the wherewithal to go through very basic checklist and say, hey, does it meet all these criteria? If so, hit the button, take the trade. If not, don't. You start to kind of turn yourself into a robot. And
Yeah.
that is the first major step of systematizing it. Once you get your rules all sorted and you're making money with the trades doing the same thing over and over again, now you start to talk about, okay, what can I automate? Can I automate the alert process? Could I actually automate the trade process, right? Or what part of it, right? Could I, maybe automate the entries and I deal with the exits, or vice versa. I automate the exits, but I'm entering everything myself. And yeah, so step one is just kind of think of yourself as a robot. You're not buying a stock because you like it or something silly like that. You're buying a stock because it's got XYZ setup. You've checked all the boxes. Away you go.
Yeah, and being able to do that, you eliminate variables, right? You eliminate as many variables as possible, and you simplify it to this is, and again, once you find something that works for you based off the way you see the market and you're comfortable deploying your risk, you can automate those things. You can make it so that you're helping yourself, and then you just focus on that. When you're trading equities, there's just plenty to trade, right? So you're gonna, in most days, you might find an opportunity, but some days you don't, and that's okay too. Cash is a position, like it's a great position to be if your setup doesn't actually manifest, and that's also okay. So yeah, I think that I've learned that over time. You can walk away and say, I followed my risk parameters, even if it was a red day, because you followed your risk parameters. That's going to happen in these markets. You have to accept that. It's when you don't follow your risk parameters, when you don't follow your system, whatever you've declared it to be, that all of a sudden you start to beat yourself up, and it could be a vicious cycle, and I think I've definitely been there. It's like, no, this isn't trading that way. I'm going to revenge trade this thing. I'm going to, and I didn't actually have a plan to take 2 or 3 attempts at a stock, but I went ahead and took 2 or 3 attempts. And again, you got to try and be less emotional about what you're doing when you're participating in these markets. And the other thing I do is I have a little checklist in terms of like, how do I feel? How does the market look like? So I have an internal checklist for me. I have an external checklist for what the market's doing. I know that I can control me, right? So I control myself. I don't control the markets. Those variables already exist. So you got to be consistent and make sure that you eliminate the variables with yourself.
All right, we'll see if the market wants to move here. I'm looking for it. I want to see something happen here, at least something, because it is boring again.
We don't have to,
a
right?
little bit of a grind lower, at least on the 3-minute, and then you see I got the 15-minute up here too on the triple Q.
I have a swing long on the VXX just to protect in case we do get a hard dip here. But looking around, guys.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the afternoon highs pre-Fed, right? On these Qs. So if you start to if we're looking for the dip buy, right? Maybe we missed the short. Hopefully, a lot of you guys caught the short. But if you missed the short and you're looking for the dip buy, on the Qs in around 90.50, that level there. Which again, if you love retracements, right? You look at this move right here from the low in the afternoon to that initial push higher, or you can even take it to the high. Let's take it to the high here. It's in and around that 50% retracement. So if you like 50% retracements, I don't trade that setup.
Oh, I hear Steve somewhere. His ears start burning. He gets a little tickle on the back of his neck every time someone talks about a 50% retracement.
So if you're looking for confluence, I'm not, I don't trade the Qs very much directly. But if you like 50% retracements coinciding with the level of resistance, prior resistance becoming support, let's see how important this level is. Maybe you start to consolidate a little bit off these lows and volume picks up. Maybe it goes the other direction. Not saying that's going to happen, but that's when you're looking for setups, right? And you're trying to find areas. Now, okay, yeah, you got things. Now talk yourself out of this trade, right? The first thing you should do is try to talk yourself out of this trade. What could happen? And that way you're aware of all of the risk parameters if you don't have an automated trading system or a bot doing it for you, you have to see, okay, what are the risk factors here? Is this a good price? Where do I have to hold it to? What position size could I take? How long do I have to hold it for? I'm basing this off a 15-minute chart, right? So, if I'm saying I'm trying to buy this dip and it's a 50% retracement of this entire move, and I'm trying to go 1-to-1, that means I got to hold it all the way to the top or hold it all the way to the bottom. So that's how you can kind of try to find some stuff. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. But yeah, it's just a little grind. It's like a sleepy grind. It's like the market's lulling you to like, hey, it's not bad. And it's just kind of grinding lower. And as soon as you know it, we're down here, and you're like, oh, I didn't. Just a little bit.
PDD did stop me out break even. That chart's still looking really good here, guys. So I'd look at China to be maybe that move that could get us higher. I saw Apple trying to go higher also. So that's right there, perfectly aligned with that China trade. So you see how Apple's just hanging out above VWAP right now. Doesn't look too bad there for it to start getting the jump. PDD, you can see how it kind of went down here. It got me at the 113.10s. And then now it's just kind of slowly grinding up higher also. So we'll see what happens with that one, see if it can push. I still got a little VXX there, but it seems like the SPY is just catching right here and could start getting going. I'm already taking a hit there in Microsoft. I'm down about 130 right now, but same spot I was in yesterday, right around the same time, right? And I think that that's the important part. It's trying to get towards these parts with not like a max drawdown, right? And then giving yourself ammo to still play the game, right? Because the truth is a lot of people just run out of ammo, right? Yep. And then their mental capital goes out the window, and then they're really because at that point, you got no mental capital and you got no capital. So then if you start swinging, that's when you go into the what we call just falling off a rut, just
a little bit of a tilt there. A little bit of a
straight into tilt. You know how that goes. It happens to tons of traders. So markets
it's happened
like
to me
this,
before. Like that's, and you just have to watch out for that. And
sometimes you have to let go of the day.
Yep.
It's okay to let the day go. There's opportunities tomorrow, guys. If you're not sharp, don't act like you're sharp, right? A lot of people try to do that where they're like, man, I had that. Yeah, you did, but you didn't at the same time, right? It's okay that you might have felt that way. You had a good pattern, good setup. At the end of the day, results speak for themselves, and we can't resist the moment, the present moment. When we lose, we can't act into the past or the future thought process, because that's how you start to get yourself in a rut and going into tilt. You're like, well, the past, or I was up and then I should have taken profits. You start getting in this little rut kind of mentality, right? Mm-hmm. Another thing that you talked about earlier, I think is very important, is levels to trading. I always talk about it too. I said, you don't need to make money at first. You can't be the loser trader. The loser trader is never going anywhere, right? We got to at least be the survivor trader, the break-even trader first. And then you can worry about making lunch money. And then you can worry about actually making money. That's the way I think about it, because I feel like too many traders go quickly trying to make Lamborghini money. That's just not going to happen, guys. You know what I mean? As much as we want it to be, that's just what it is. And yes, Derek, we are preaching today. We're doing a little preaching in between these markets. I think it's important.
Who's doing the preaching? Tesla sellers right now.
Oh, Tesla.
Yeah. SPY just ding new lows. So just everyone
looks careful. Like I'm getting some data issue there. And data's lagging up. That's when you know the markets are bad, when the data starts lagging.
Yeah, the SPY just
this last 3-minute candle on Tesla, still printing higher volume than the previous candle. Really just starting to kind of accelerate, testing the 315 there. The low from yesterday on the intraday is 311.50 or so. So looks like we might have a date with that and see what happens in and around that 311, 312 level. And honestly, off a quarter that we all knew was going to kind of be soft on the vehicles. We all knew that was coming into it, and it did bid up since then. But Tesla
ready to step back up in Microsoft here, guys. I'm starting to see a little bit of a fake out there in the VIX. I'm going to take another shot here.
So yeah, we are at the lows on Tesla, well below the closing print at 319, and we just continue to sell off, testing that 315 level. But boy, yeah, that's yeah. If you're in a Tesla short, congratulations. you are hopefully at a better price than what you're at right now. Hopefully, um, short setups I like those pre-market low breaks as well on tight range, right? If we have a consolidative open, right, a choppy open within a small range, now you can base your risk a little bit. Risking a dollar or two on a smaller position, Tesla can move way more than that, right? So the R to R based off a stock like Tesla is also really good. That setup didn't show itself to me this morning. It tried to actually break the pre-market highs. A little bit of breakout fake out there, and then just quadunked all the way through the closing price, retested the close, failed the close, and now continues to sell off, now trading below that 315 level. Yeah, it looks like it's actually accelerating to the downside at this point on Tesla.
Well, taking bets on both sides here, guys. So maybe one of the accounts will win, right? I have the VXX long here, 41.44, and I also got another little bit of Microsoft. Of course, I'm using MSFL for that, but I saw Microsoft doing the same move, right? The bottoming right there. Look at the volume that came in. That's what told me to go take my shot. That volume that came in with it. So it could be buyers like seller exhaustion finally hit. Buyers starting to take over. And then I saw in the VIX setup told me like, hey, this is an easy one to just dump on them, right? Like I'm even long this and I'm even feeling like this is a nice little setup to get dumped on, right? So.
Yeah, well, that's the way, right? That's the way I always trade because that's the way the bot trades. But I think today more than anything, I'm hoping for a really positive day because the fact that I think that we are in the market is so bifurcated with the SPY up 0.5%, IWM down 0.25%. There's just so many, different sectors ripping, different sectors tanking. So I think you could definitely do that where you could have a VIX pop and you could have a Microsoft pop all at the same time. Because I'm up okay today, and the only other thing, so now I'm in 4 longs and 3 shorts. So I'm pretty closely hedged there. I took Humana, which I haven't heard about in years, to the long side there, and that's my 7th trade. So we're in 7 positions right now.
All right, guys. VXX starting to jump here in a second. I'm going to be able to put out a 10-cent tick stop, so at least I'm already in the green there. I'm up about $50 on the swing trade there. I'm also still up on Microsoft here, so it's interesting to still be up with the SPY heading straight down to that trend line. So SPY just took a hard move down there. That's why I was set up for the VXX. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go really tightening down on Microsoft. Risk like $20 here. Remember, I'm down 130 on the main account, but I'm going to still stay in it just in case it flips here really quickly, but just tighten down on the risk side on that side. And then I'm really just watching the VIX trade, which is my best trade right now, to try to maximize on that. But the SPY would need to break here. A quick sweep back to VWAP will cut this trade out.
Yeah, NVIDIA testing its previous close, 40 cents away from that now. 179.27 is what I got quoted on the close here. We're testing that right now, and we are accelerating into that. If I was looking for a reversion, this is not one where I'd sit in a level because you have increasing volume as the sellers continue to step in, right? So what are they doing? They're just hitting the bid. They're just selling, and it's increasing. So this is where you kind of want to wait a little bit. If you want to play the reversion, we are extended away from the moving averages that I'm looking at, right? So you do have an extension away from VWAP. You do have an extension away from the 50-period moving average. They are downtrending, but this has to kind of show you it has to show you a bit of consolidation. And usually the setup is, I want it to consolidate tightly, give me small 3-minute candles, play the breakout of the next to the low of the day, with tight risk if you're looking for the reversion. If this just snaps all this off this level and just goes up to the high side, it's too much risk for me. Buyers, they stepped in at prices that I wasn't willing to step up on. So this is usually the setup that I look for, but we're already starting to bid up, starting to defend starting to defend that closing price in at around 129.25. So we'll see what happens with this here. But usually when you get this expansion away, some folks call it a rubber band trade. It's really just a bit of reversion. You're just trying to play the market action a little bit and say, okay, probabilities are is that we get some portion of retracement. So we're not going to retrace to the high of the day, but we could maybe retrace to some previous areas of support that could now become resistance. So
exactly. I look at a tape all the time, and I look at 15-minute resistance, prior day's resistance. Can you get back to that level, then maybe bounce off of that area, right? In the Qs, that'd be somewhere going back towards, let's say, the 570 to 569 range, right? We're right there. We're at 570 20s. So I agree with you. I think that trade happens all the time.
Yep.
The back to the 15-minute range, or maybe it's an hourly resistance of the prior day, and that's where it gets the bounce majority of the times. That's why deeper time frames are good to at least use, right? Like, you don't have to stay 100% of the time on it. It's okay to go a little bit shorter, but always don't get lost in those smaller charts. Always make sure that you're seeing those bigger charts, because now we're just going back to the prior 3 days ranges. Right.
Yep. And I usually have like the 15. I have the 15, the 30, because I can figure out an hourly level off the 30. And then I have the daily. Okay. Right. And each one of those levels, and I have that on my execution screen, and each one of those levels, right, the bigger the time frame, the more priority I give that level, right? So now we start talking about some bigger levels where you can get a little bit of retracement. Even if you're trying to scalp off that level, you can base some risk off of that. And again, know what you're expecting, right? If you're playing the reversion counter trend, don't expect 100% retracement. We've seen it more often in these markets, but that's not the expectancy, right? You're trying to get a bit of retracement, and then base your exits off those previous resistance points, and then manage your position size accordingly. And it looks like I didn't take this NVIDIA trade for the reversion, but we did get that. We did get a green candle. Let's see what this this next 3-minute candle brings on NVIDIA. See if we get a little bit more of a retracement. And then if you look at the 15-minute, we're just basically testing those pre-Fed highs, right? Those pre-Fed highs.
Yep.
Let's see if the bid kind of continues in that, to kind of support that level. And it actually coincides with the pre-market highs in and around that 179.50 that we saw on Tuesday. So we're testing down to those levels. And again, you could play that retracement, scalp that range, scalp it for $1, scalp it for $1.50, whatever that previous resistance level is. And if you like that setup, that's how you can try and draw these setups, right? You could sit there and say, okay, take the break out of this, risk to the low of the day, play the retracement into previous resistance, get out a portion of the position or the majority of the position, and then leave a small runner on if you think it's going to expand from there. Put a trailing stop to break even, or wherever you want to place your your stop, and then let the position ride. And then after that, you're kind of in cruise control, right? You don't need to worry about anything. The stop's working for you. And those are my favorite trades. Once I've executed on it, just let it be what it be. Even if it's a losing trade, you can actually accept that risk a little bit. So we'll see if the market provides a little bit of retracement though. But that acceleration to the downside the past few minutes was starting to get pretty spicy there.
All right, traders, we're going to start wrapping it up here with David, and I'll let you guys know about how my trades are going. But it was great to have you on today, David. Always good to have some new traders, learn from some new traders, of course. That's what I always say. There's always a personality that you can attach yourself to, whether you like Money Mitch, David, or Michael here, right? And I think that's what it's all about. It's finding traders that trade like yourself so that you can surround yourself with like-minded individuals, right? And we always hear that growing up, and I think it's more important in trading than ever, right? Having those traders that you feel are real traders working on their craft to continue building. That's why we brought David on. So I appreciate you coming on, David. Continue battling in your journey. And where could traders learn a little bit more about what you do, David?
Yeah, so I do a few things over at Trade Delicious. We've got some stuff that we're cooking up over there that's going to be a lot of fun. So having a bit of fun over there. And D Rosa Trades on Twitter. You know, you can feel free to reach out to me there. I don't do a lot of prognosticating on there, but I'm always willing to kind of you know, share experiences, share likewise, you know, and like you said, grow together. And the biggest thing is that you are a product of your environment, so you got to choose it wisely.
Yeah,
I
I
love
say if you're not doing it already, you're doing it wrong, guys. Go ahead and follow Trade Delicious. There's the link right there in the chat, guys. Hit the link, hit the subscribe. I guarantee it. You guys will be telling me about this channel. I've seen some of the psychology toolkits, guys. Check them out, guys. Really good channel and continuing to kind of break out right now. So if you guys want to go ahead and check them out, the link's right there. Hit the subscribe and catch some of their videos. You guys will see David on there. Appreciate you, David. Keep battling, and we'll bring you back on, my friend.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Take care.
See you, man.
All right, guys, we're going to be wrapping up the markets here. Looking really good in the swing trade with the VIX right there. Probably going to get cut out of this Microsoft trade, but I'm okay with that, right? Down 160 in the main account here, and I'll give you guys a quick little wrap up here. Down 160 in the main account. I'm okay with that. That's not going to hurt me, right? Yesterday was green. Today's not every day is going to be green. I will take that red proudly because the way that I traded, right? Sometimes you can see it. I traded multiple times to the upside today, couldn't really gain that trend. But what did we do? We also adapted, right? We're using a little bit of my swing account here to take different trades. That's already in the green, and I'm up $90 now on that trade. So I'm just like securing profits as I go here. And you guys can see it right here on the bottom left. So not a bad trade at all. I'm just going to be riding it up right now. I even have a stop place, so it might get cut out right here. And that's okay too, right? If I see it like a right near it, I can do stuff like this where I'm like, maybe it was just trying to cake me right there. I'm okay with 4 cents lower. So I just lowered it like you just saw me do it. And then now we'll see what happens if it can continue to run. If we get a reversal, maybe Microsoft actually does make a move. I actually just got stopped out on that one. And what happens? Quick move back, right? So it doesn't mean the markets are done today. Choppy markets is what we see. I think choppy markets is what continues.
Yeah.
Going to you, Michael.
Yeah, just I'm watching the markets to see if they hold on here. I'm again pretty well hedged. I've still got my 4 longs and 3 shorts up $150 or so today. Again, just testing the bot across all different scenarios. I don't know if I've had a really kind of pullback day on this one yet, so we're going to keep an eye on that going forward. But yeah, just the same trades I went over, both long and short. Just waiting to see which of those, if any, ends up being the trend of the day.
All right, we'll see what happens out there, guys. And like always, stay safe out there, traders. We'll be back, like always, next week on Monday. See you back right here in Trade the Pool.